Chapter 1. The end of the before time, and consequently the end of Kuda's childhood and the beginning of the in-between time, came fast and without warning in the summer of 1857, on a day that dawned cloudless with the sun high in a vivid blue sky. When the day ended, in a soaking rain this was, everything had changed. Everything. Forever. No, no, you can't put me in there. Please, Pa, don't put me in there. Kuda's protests, those of a little Negro boy who'd only just lost his milk teeth, sounded weak and mealy. He was 7 or 9 years old. Keeping his age was no priority, and to say he was about 7 or 9 was good enough. And in he went, forced into the ground at his father's own hand, kicking and bucking all the way, just up to the last moment. That last moment was, far as Kuda could tell, the last moment in all the world, and he suddenly stopped his carrying on and stared big into his pa's face. The huge man had hold of him then, his great hands wrapped Kuda's tiny wrists, and the boy thought, "Don't let go, Pa. Don't ever let go." Then, "Don't do this. Why are you doing this?" His pa's face seemed to break open then. His head tilted, as if a great weight pushed it so, and his lips quivered and pulled back, baring his gapped and yellowed teeth in a pleading, regretful grin. One eye squinted, closed completely, then opened before squinting again. Kuda thought, would think forevermore, that his father had wanted to say something in that instant. He didn't, however, and what passed between them was unsaid. Both their faces welled with tears, and neither could take his eyes off the other. Bucking again. "You shut up now, boy." The words came out hard, like saying them was akin to cutting your own arm off. Not something you'd ever want to do, except maybe the world had gone to shit, and right here, in this time and place, cutting your own arm off was about the only thing that made any sense. Tears welled anew in the big man's eyes, and that's what Kuda would always remember. How the last time he saw his pa alive, he'd been crying. The only time he ever saw him such. Kuda opened his mouth. "But, Pa!" He never saw the hand coming, and probably his father had meant it like that. His hand was big and strong from working years in the field, could palm a melon and squeeze it one-handed till it popped like a ripe berry. His pa jerked his head first one way and then the other, and if he took his eyes off the boy, Kuda never saw it. Listening was what he was doing, crooking his head to gain a better ear. The big man paused still a moment longer, and looking into his eyes was hypnotic. Those eyes were a witch's brew of warmth and love and everything that was safe, and Kuda thought he could go his whole life entire without ever looking elsewhere. His pa's breathing was loud and labored and heavy. Kuda's own eyes watered, and his nose ran with snot. He sniffled, and what came to him was the rank odor of an animal caught in a trap, a coon or maybe a wolf. He and his pa had caught a wolf once. His pa's hand struck him upside his head, and Kuda's childhood ended. He awoke later to a cold squalor. The moldy earth smell of wet dirt clogged his nose. Breathing was a chore. He could barely move his legs, and even in the dark, the close confines of the box hugged him in a claustrophobic shroud. His arms were across his chest, and only a few inches space separated them from the board above. He raised his head and struck that board and fell back dazed, and in his mind heard his pa shouting at him all over again. "You keep shut up now, boy." He almost wet himself. Then his father's words over and over again, each more insistent than the last. "You keep shut up now, boy. You keep shut up now, boy. You keep shut up now, boy." His breath hitched in the close dark, and he struggled against the box. He finally took to chewing his lower lip, and somehow that made it better, forced him to slow down. He thought, in the hole, then. He heard voices, or thought he heard voices, like in a dream, the kind that comes in the middle of the black night unbidden, the kind that makes a little boy piss himself 'cause he's shaking so bad and there's nobody around to comfort him. He had known a few nights like that. "Where's that nigger boy of yours?" A phantom voice? Real? And then his mother's sweet golden song. That was real. She sang, "Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, Lord, by and by. There's better home awaitin' in the sky, Lord." The sharp, very real smack of skin against skin, and now Cuda did piss himself. He began to squirm in his confines, to cry, to pummel the boards of the box. Then more of his father's words came to him. "Don't you cry, boy. You cry, to find you." He became still again, bit his lip and sucked in a breath and tasted dirt, a cruddy, earthy flavor that lingered after he spat. He took in another and felt his chest heaving, felt his parents going away, going to the sure dead, the place old Prosper had told him folks went when they died. A nice place, he hoped. "Don't you cry, boy. You cry to find you." "Who dey, Pa?" Soft words, but they sounded loud in the box. "Toubab. Monsters." In his mind, he walked the shore dead with Prosper. Neither one of them could read, but that didn't seem to matter. They found the stones of his parents, Erasmus and Sarah Monk. They had no dates because slaves didn't get dates on their stones. Their deaths were as anonymous as their lives. Toubab. Monsters. Or white folks. Same word for both. They beat Cuda's father senseless. He heard his father wailing, heard the scrapings as they dragged him to the tree, then hung him first when his mother refused to give away her son's hiding place. Then her sweet singing again, strong and bold as ever. She could have been projecting to the heavens, but he knew she was sending her love to him. She sang and they waited for her. They waited for her. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. That's just about the best nigger singing I ever did hear. Real sweet, lady. Damn shame you won't tell us where that boy be. You leave my boy alone. He ain't hurt no one. Say goodbye, lady." Under the earth, Cuda said goodbye. A long time later, no idea how long in the silent dark, he kicked his way out of the box and rose out of the grave his father had fashioned for him. He was back a piece in the woods at the side of the road. The sun had gone away and the earth had cooled. When he came out on the road, it was pouring rain, and at first he didn't see them. He heard the heavy ropes complaining as they swung in the weather, though, and then the lightning came, and he saw them suspended in the tree like flying shades. He wasn't big enough to cut them down, and sat under the tree for the better part of 2 days, trying not to look up except to scare the crows away. On the third day, hunger and the natural tainting of their bodies encouraged him to move on. "Boy!" someone shouted. "Boy! Y'all hold up there. Come here now, boy!" Cuda stopped rummaging in the garbage, pulling a half-eaten orange out from its depths. He turned toward the hollering voice, recognizing the Toubab's low speech. He had long ago learned Toubabs came in 2 classes: those who treated Negroes like property or wayward children, and those who regarded Negroes on a par with coons. The former were a nuisance, but tolerable. The latter were like mad dogs, unpredictable, with a tendency for a nasty bite. Which is you? He took a few reluctant steps toward the man, saw he was young, not 20 or 25. He looked him over warily, the way one might do a snake. He avoided his eyes. Shoeless, Cuda felt the cold mud squish between his toes. The same cold climbed his spine. "Yassa? What your name, boy?" "Jim, sir." "Don't sass me, boy." "No, sir. Never, sir." "Don't move no closer." "So what your name, boy?" Hesitation. In Toubab's world, according to Prosper, this was, and verified by his own experience, One name was good as another. That the two Bob was asking him again was uncomfortable. Ain't nothing good. Most folks, they just calls me Jim, on account of my pappy, Big Jim. He smiled, a stupid grin that made him look simple. I could beat it out of you, boy. Cuda stood bulging his leg muscles, preparing to run. But where? He'd been running 2 months, every place as awful as the last. Back in the before time, he'd heard Prosper say how the world was a place with thorns, how a man could get himself dead without trying. The seer'd been wise to the ways of the two-bob world. Jim, eh? The two-bob stared at him with his head cocked at a crazy angle. The two-bob's forearms were done up with crazy wrappings of some sort. No, Cuda thought, not wrappings, bandages. Cuda palmed his half orange. His orange, he had found it, wasn't about to share it with nobody, and rubbed it against his shirt like he was polishing it. He held it out. Yassa, Jim, sir. Orange, sir. Do I looks like I wants a orange nigger? There ain't no question you want to answer. The voice in his head was Prosper's, old and creaky like the man himself, but strong, too. Cuda listened out for that voice and kept his mouth shut and made little squishes in the mud with his toes. He was hungry in the worst way a boy can be, deep down where the taste for food is a poison that'll get you killed. He needed, to sink his teeth into the orange. The weight of it in his hand was a tease and his mouth watered. He saw now that the wrappings, the bandages, if that's what they were, had come partially undone on one arm. Cuda was close enough, too close, he felt, to see something ugly under those bandages. A burn, maybe, below the elbow. You simple boy, that your problem? Yeah, simple. Yes, sir. Orange, sir. Two-Bob smiled. You just a dumb shit baby nigga darky, that's all. Okay, if that suits you. Cuda redoubled his simple-looking smile and stuck his tongue out like he was trying to catch flies with it. Yes, sir, he said. He bit the orange and its juices ran down his chin, over the dark skin of his neck. It would have tasted good in any other place, but here he barely tasted it at all. He just wanted to get it down, to have something filling the hollow under his ribs for whatever was coming. Well, I could use me a dumb shit baby nigga docky. Maybe I'll buy you, boy. Maybe you come with me, then you eat. Two-Bob stepped toward him, put a bandaged arm out. Both his forearms had been wrapped, but the wraps were dirty and old now. The one side, the one that had come undone, unraveled further. The skin under it was either dirty or charred going on black. Cuda stepped back a pace. He barely breathed, as if chewing was the important thing and breathing came second. Leave him be. A tall, thin man in a green bowler hat stepped from the shadows. What's it to you, mister? I may be looking for a nigger boy. Got me some work what needs doing. Two-Bob turned to Cuda and sucked air through the gaps in his tobacco-stained teeth. He was missing at least one in the front, maybe more, but Cuda's glimpse was quick. How's about it, boy? Where your master? Cuda swallowed, hesitated. His eyes went to the man in the green hat. He ain't for sale, the man in the green hat said. Two-Bob eyed them both. What? The word came out of the corner of his mouth, as if escaping. You heard me. The boy ain't for sale. He's mine, and I ain't interested in selling. Green Hat turned to Cuda and gestured behind him. Get on back to that wagon, boy. Be quick about it. Ain't got all night. Eat. Cuda wolfed what was left of the orange and looked past Green Hat. In the flickering light of a street lamp, he saw a painted wagon, a mural on its side. Letters, too, though he couldn't read them. The paint was worn, the wagon old and tired-looking. A miscellany of pots and pans and ropes hung from the wagon. Cuda looked at Two-Bob, then back at Green Hat. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, Cuda said, and stepped toward the wagon. God damn it, that ain't your boy. Prove it. Ah, shit. What the hell? I'll find me another darky. He said it loud enough for Cuda to hear. Ain't like they don't breathe like sewer rats, you know. Toobop snickered, and it echoed down the alley. Cuda approached the wagon, biting his lip and looking back at the pair all the while. He leaned against the side of it, trying to decide if he should run or not. The green hat man was coming toward him, and he had just about decided yes when a little door opened above his head, and a small creature with a face reminiscent of a man, only not, appeared. It had bright eyes and slender arms and tiny, perfect fingers. It climbed out and up and hung by its tail from a crossbar that seemed made for the purpose. A moment later, it jumped onto Cuda's shoulder, and the boy gasped. Archimedes, mind your manners. And that was how Cuda met the man in the green bowler hat, and how the in-between time ended and the now time began. My name is Edison McDaniels. Thanks for listening.